I'm sure there are a few people here, or maybe more of you, if you're DC fans, have heard of Superman and Bizarro. Superman, the hero of Metropolis, and Bizarro, his vaguely Frankenstein-like flipped version, his opposite, you could say, which is actually an apt metaphor for life and its flipped counterpart, mirror life. I want everyone to please hold up your hands in front of you. Everyone in the audience, please do so. Now please try to twist your hands so that your left hand looks just like a right hand. Has anyone in the audience succeeded in making your left hand look like a right hand? No, right? This is because our hands are mirror images of one another. In chemistry, this is called chirality, or for our purposes, handedness. Chemically identical molecules, which are mirror images of one another, are called enantiometers, formerly Lewis and Dexter for the Latin for left and right. Enantiometers occur naturally in nature. All living things have left-handed amino acids and right-handed DNA. Just so. However, what if there was a type of life where this chirality was flipped? Welcome to mirror life. If life as we know it is Superman, then mirror life is Bizarro, or flipped version, quite literally. Scientists hypothesized, scientists at Stanford, that we could potentially synthesize a mirror cell in the lab in the next 15 to 30 years. Alien, right? In fact, mirror life could help in our search for alien life. You see, when a lot of people think of aliens, right, what comes to mind is probably a small green humanoid with unfathomable technology like E.T. However, when scientists search for aliens, they're searching for the most primitive, simplest forms of life. For example, bacteria, or even protocells that are just beginning to cross the threshold into life. However, we only know how to test for chiral life, naturally chiral life, like life on Earth. Hypothetically, if there was some other planet where mirror life existed and we only tested for naturally chiral life, it would have proved to have shown a false negative. Life, alien life, could be right on our noses, and we don't know anything about it. Alright, away from aliens and back to Earth. Does everyone remember that at the start I told you to fix the image of one of your loved ones undergoing Alzheimer's in your brain? How would mirror life help in treating diseases such as Alzheimer's? You see, one challenge that a lot of protein-based drugs face is that the drugs, they get broken down by the enzymes in our body. So when the drug gets delivered into your bloodstream, you've got enzymes that are kind of like the molecular police of the body, okay? They walk and wander around, they're trying to break all the molecules down, and they find a molecule that they can break down, and it fits into the little slot called the active site, and it breaks. However, this does not occur with mirror biomolecules. No matter which way you try to orient a mirror biomolecule, it will not be able to fit into the enzyme's active slot, and thus will stay longer in our bloodstream. This will lead to a more sustainable and much more effective treatment, because the drug stays much longer in our bloodstream. Now, how will this help Parkinson's specifically? Parkinson's, Alzheimer's. Let's talk about Alzheimer's. So, the development of Alzheimer's occurs when small plaques, protein plaques, form in our brain and start disrupting the neuron function. Kind of like when you brush your hair and all the hair goes down the sink and then it gets clogged and you have to call it a plumber. That's because it disrupts the water flow, the flow of electricity in our brain. So what mirror proteins would do is that they would gather around those plaques, kind of like the plumber, right? He sticks his fingers into the drain and he pulls out the hair. Kind of like that. They're going to isolate the plaques far away from the neurons and keep them away to slow down the development of the disease. And the best thing is that these drugs could stay potentially indefinitely in the body and even in the brain because they can't get broken down. However, there is a reason why mirror cell research is so heavily controlled. You see, mirror cells cannot interact chemically with all types of chiral life. So they kind of move like through our world like ghosts. They're physically there, right? You can study them under the slide, you can see them under the microscope, but chemically, they would not be able to interact with any type of life. Now, how many of you here have recently had a bacterial infection? Please raise your hands. Alright, I see quite a few of you. And I'm assuming that you would use antibiotics to treat it, right? Scientists say that antibiotics would be completely ineffective against mirror bacteria. Additionally, our own immune systems would not recognize these mirror cells as living because they can't interact with them. The immune system, so the immune system, system, when you feel sick, when you have a bacterial infection, it starts to find the source of the infection and kills the cells. But because it wouldn't recognize these mirror cells as living, it would start attacking our own body. Mirror cells would be unstoppable if they get out of the lab. Additionally, all sorts of natural feedback mechanisms, which in nature help to keep populations controlled, to stop one species from taking over the world, like for example, predator-prey interactions, parasitism, or even infection would be ineffective against these mirror cells. They would take over the world if they are unleashed. This could lead to the creation of a potentially dangerous bioweapon that could destroy the world. You see, does everyone remember when COVID happened, all the governments tried to contain COVID? They initiated lockdowns, stopped flights, you couldn't go into a flight without a mask. Does everybody remember that? However, COVID still became a global pandemic. The same thing would happen with mirror cells, and it would potentially kill all natural chiral life on Earth. This chaos may be desirable for certain actors, and there's nothing stopping these actors, these independent actors, from developing these mirror cells in their own laboratories in the name of medical research. This would function as blackmail. This would change the current political, international political situation of the world. These independent agents could likely have control of this world. A lot of scientists have called for a halt on this mirror cell research, but we have opened Pandora's box. Despite all of the risks that it has, because it does have risks, the potential benefits are still there. We've opened Pandora's box. We can't put back the knowledge that we have already unleashed. How will our world adapt to this new threat? What new legal systems will have to be put into place? What new political measures will be taken to enforce these legal systems? And the most important question, how far are we willing to go with this kind of research? Are we willing to play God? Thank you.